me romance. Read me romance. Read me romance. Read me romance. You could take a look in a book, that's fine. Or you could sit back, relax, and unwind and read me romance. Read me romance.
Welcome back, lady listeners.
Hey, lady listeners. Welcome back to a new week at Read Me Romance.
Woo!
We have Lydia Michaels with us this week, who has given us the book Calamity Rayne, Over the Moon. And this is part of a series, so I'm really excited for this. We'll talk about it in a little bit, like everything that's connected to this. But Lydia was awesome to work with. She was really great. Like anytime I needed something, she was like, "Here you go." And not only would she respond to my email, but she would respond and send me like 10 links and graphics or whatever.
Yeah, like very organized.
Yeah, I sent you her email.
Susan Stoker of her.
Yeah. You know what? Susan Stoker will always hold a special place in my heart for how fucking organized she is. She is fucking fantastic. So, but we'll talk about Lydia in just a few minutes. But before then, we'll catch up with what we've been reading lately and what we've been watching and all that good stuff, because I haven't talked to you since before Thanksgiving. I can't remember the last time we recorded.
So, yeah.
It's been a minute. But did I tell you before we went off air that I started watching Scandal?
Yeah, you talked about it.
Okay, have you seen the show? Did we talk about this on the podcast? Have you seen
we talked about it.
Okay, all right.
About how many, you'd done a bunch of seasons.
Yeah, so I finished it yesterday. It was 7 seasons. There was like between 15 and 20 episodes a season, and they're all an hour long. Yeah. So this was a big commitment. I felt like a big chunk of time. And I will say, I love the show. I thought it had great writing, very much like a Grey's Anatomy, where it was like a lot of drama, different situations. There's like big dramas every episode, but then there's long dramas that go over several episodes, that kind of thing. But the final season, though, I felt like the main character, Olivia Pope, I feel like she really sort of broke bad, is the terminology I like to use a lot, where she turned into the villain. And I hated her.
Everybody.
I hated her. Like the season was, I think it was 16 episodes long. And the first 5 or 6 episodes, she's a monster. And I almost stopped watching it. I had made it 7 seasons. I almost stopped because she was so awful. And I just thought, there's no way they're going to redeem her enough. And so after those first episodes, I felt like the rest of the season was her going on like a redemption tour. And like every episode was like her making an apology to a different main character.
Yeah.
And in the end, they all like had their own stories and they went in different directions and it played out. And then this is another big spoiler. If you don't want to know anything about this, fast forward now. But they kill off one of the main characters in the final episode, who has been on the show since day one. They killed him off. And it pissed me off because he was my favorite character. And I was so mad that they killed him in the final episode, that he didn't get his happily ever after. And he was the sweetest. He was like a sweet, nerdy lawyer, but he was in love with like this beautiful like redhead who was too good for him, and then finally she fell in love with him and they were in love at the same time, and then he died. And I was like, God damn it. So that's not.
I don't know. It always reminded me of, like, I went to go make sure I had the right quote. It's you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
The villain, yeah. That's exactly what it was. And so, like, when she turned into the villain, I was like, I don't know if they're just trying to.
She didn't become, like, the Batman villain is part of the problem. Where you became the villain because they needed a villain and there was no choice. So you became the bad guy for the people still.
Yeah, yeah.
You knew everyone was going to hate you. And you were like, that's a sacrifice I'll make.
Mm-hmm. So it was just really hard to watch the this character, Olivia Pope, that I loved, Kerry Washington's character. It was so hard to watch someone who I just loved and admired for 6 seasons turn into the person that she was fighting against the entire time. And it just was really disappointing. And then,
it gives almost an authenticness to it, though, because it feels like once everybody gets sucked into politics, at some point,
they're going to turn rotten. Yeah. And she did. And she was power hungry. And it was, and it was part of it. Like, I understood it. And maybe, like, obviously, I am not as good of a writer as Shonda Rhimes is. Like, I have nothing on that woman. She's an incredible writer. She's written some of the greatest stories, for especially like TV shows.
Yeah.
And like come up with these things. And I'm just like, her mind is incredible. So maybe I'm just not seeing the bigger picture that she wanted me to see, because all I could see was just so much disappointment. Like, that's all I could feel as I watched it. And I was like, whatever the message was didn't come across to me. I did not get a greater meaning out of it, other than the fact that, like, yes, she turned power hungry just like every other asshole she had fought for 6 seasons. She was no better than them. And I get it. She was a morally gray character from day one when we find out she's fucking the president. Like, she's morally gray. Episode 1, day 1, minute 1. But I didn't think she would ever be inhumane, and she was. And I think that's what really bothered me. But that's a deep discussion for a show that's like 4 years old. Like that ended 4 years ago.
I think a God complex comes over when you start making really life and death decisions for people.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely think she had that. And, I felt like there were certain parts of the show that drug on longer than they should. But even that to me is forgivable than her to just become one of them.
I don't know. Because it literally what just popped in my head was, we're talking about that guy that was killed.
Yeah. The CEO of the hospital.
Yeah. And,
or whatever.
I love law and I follow crime shows and real crime, and the rules are the rules. In the legal world, that's why we have to follow the rules. The jurors need to play by the rules. They need to do everything. But I think even the best of us can be corrupt, because, at times you're like, well, I don't care they killed him. I don't know if that's true now for this guy. I don't know why he killed him. We have an idea. And then, but if you're willing to just kind of like sit on a jury and be like, pardon.
Yeah. Like, do you really care that a millionaire CEO was killed?
You're good. That you're a good person, and you would never. But I feel like everybody has a breaking point, maybe, or has a shift of, I don't know, where you could slip to the dark side for a minute.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe in the death penalty, but I'm like,
well, street justice is okay.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So I feel like that's how you start to slip into those areas. If you don't keep yourself very black and white, but at the same time, being very black and white can be terrible too. I don't just know if there's any winning ever.
I know. I agree. I have the same kind of convictions as well, where it's like, well, I don't know that I necessarily believe in the death penalty, but hurt one of my kids and see how fast I change. Like,
I guess I'm not as that right. I don't believe in the death penalty because people would fuck up and get it wrong. I'm not opposed to maybe offing some people.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm all about some street justice. I'm like, let's do that. But, so, anyways, like, this is, watching the show, it was really good. Yeah.
Is this us talking about it, trying to figure it out? What's our gray area? What could pull us under?
Oh, listen, this show will stick with me forever. I know. Well, like, there are moments in the show where I was just like, damn,
I do want to say, just because you can write something that sticks with me does not make you great.
Yeah, true. Yeah, in the same vein. True. Very true. So, but this all stemmed from watching the show because I listened to Kerry Washington's memoir, and that was what somebody had talked about on Threads. They had said, we're going to do, and for the month of November, we're going to do nonfiction November, where we read books that are nonfiction. So that was one of the ones I read. And I also read Quinta Brunson. She's the one that I don't know. You probably know her if you saw her. Do you watch Abbott Elementary? Have you seen that show or know that show at all?
I know of it.
She's like the really petite, short black girl, big eyes, so freaking cute. She's the one that's like this. It's a skit from BuzzFeed. She was on BuzzFeed, but it's a skit that she made, and it's a guy next to her, and they're in a movie theater, and he's like ordering her popcorn and drinks and candy. She's like, "Ooh, he's got money. You got money," like that kind of thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? That skit. Anyway, so that was like kind of what like blew her up into popularity, and everyone was like, "Oh, he got money, girl." But so I love her. I love her so much, and I love Abbott Elementary, and she's like one of the creators of the show. So I saw that she had a book out recently. I think it's called. Hold on, it's called She Memes Well, Memes MEMES. I want to see when this came out because I'm pretty sure it like just came out. Hold on. I have it here. What the hell is it? Oh, no. Okay. It was September 2022. Wrong. Okay. So yeah. So anyways, but I saw she had one and it popped up after I read Kerry Washington's. It popped up as a thing on Audible and it's her narrating it. It's so cute. But one of the things that I've really enjoyed about this book is that she grew up Jehovah's Witness and her family very religious. She's the youngest of 5, which is why her name's Quinta, because I think it means 5th in Spanish. Mm-hmm. So, but anyways, like her family is really devout Jehovah's Witness and she's not, and she talks a lot about that in her story about like dividing herself, that, you know, she had the Quinta she was at home and then the Quinta she was away, and how she never felt like that home was not a place where she could be honest and be herself. Yeah. And I just thought, damn, like that's harsh, you know? So it's a really interesting journey, but she's so fucking funny. So like as she's telling her story, she's cracking jokes the whole time. So it's kind of one of those things where you talk about trauma and it's really emotional and upsetting, and then you just drop a joke in the middle of it.
Terrible joke.
Yeah, to break the tension. And that's what she does in her book. And so it's really, I've enjoyed the shit out of it. It's been so good because she talks about that and her place in the comedy, and she is so relatable as like a 20-something-year-old, like, you know, sleeping on friends' couches with shitty boyfriends, crappy jobs, like trying to find out what she wants to do with her life and make her dreams come true. And it's so relatable in so many ways. So I've really, really enjoyed it. So if you need something that's, you know, not romancy or not like, you know, if you want just something different to listen to, it's a great audiobook. I definitely suggest it. So yeah, it's been a good one. And then after that, I have, I pre-ordered, Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson. I haven't started it yet. It hit my pre-order the other day, but I wanted to finish Quinta's book before I did that one. And but that's the one where it's based in Scotland, and it's like the Loch Ness monster, I think, is a shifter, and she falls in love with him. And I was just like, okay, yes, I love this. So, I'm excited about that one. So tell me about your adventure this past weekend.
Oh yeah, I went to the Great West Lodge with somebody I became friends with from the podcast. Like we slowly started talking years ago, and we talked more and more and more and more. And Jamie, I always say her last name wrong.
Schlosser?
Yes, Schlosser.
That one? Yes.
Which she has about like Outcast and Trucker. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The Good Guys series. I love the Good Guys series book. But me and her,
I've read those because of you.
Well, me and her have talked randomly throughout the years, but this Read Me Romance person really pulled us together over the last 6 or 7 months over the Sister Wives, because we all
that's right, yes.
And we're all in another. I listened to another I don't listen to podcasts, even though we're on a podcast. But I listened to a shit talk podcast about the Sister Wives, and they are fucking hilarious. And we just talk about this podcast, and we talk about Sister Wives 90% of the conversation. I don't know how we can talk about a show so much.
There's a lot going on in those shows, though.
But yeah, I mean, I do think it's an interesting dynamic because we've been growing up with these people for like 10 years. But we went to I didn't tell you I was going because actually the Read Me Romance person, probably one of the reasons we started talking is she has family here in Kearney where I live.
Yeah, in your tiny ass town.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's come here before and I haven't met up with her, but then Jamie's been coming here for cheer stuff for her daughter. Mm-hmm. And she just like, I don't have any plans, so I'm going to bring my daughter in for cheer stuff. And then Allie was like, well, I'm coming for my family, so we're going to meet up, I guess. And I was like, I cannot not meet up. Like, I talked
that they're both going to do it. You have to go.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. And so...
First of all, you have to leave your house.
I back out.
Yeah.
But they were all bringing their kids, too.
Yeah.
So we decided to meet at the Great Wolf Lodge. Mm-hmm. And I took my son. And he brought his girlfriend.
That's so fun. Did they have a good time?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. They came to my room and we just sat upstairs and we just talked. You always forget. That's one thing I miss about book sightings. It's just the talking.
The talking.
Just sitting and talking. But I had a lot of fun. I would definitely do it again. I was kind of disappointed they weren't coming around for Christmas. I was like, we can go to the Elms next time.
Is that like a grown-up version of that hotel?
It's more of like a girly. Yeah, it's like a cute little antique spa here, but it's big. It was built in the early 1900s.
Is it in Kearney?
It's in the next town over, Excelsior.
Okay. That's
so fun. But they got indoor pool, outdoor pool, a spa. It's just yeah. So it was fun. I would definitely. But
you would do it again.
I don't know if they'd have fun, but because they get little passes there.
Yeah.
And I remember Rob was like, "How's it going?" I was like, "Well, Peyton, I think Peyton's kind of on a date because they went to dinner." I was like, "We're paying for it though."
Yeah, I wondered like how they would like it as like older-ish teenagers, not
not little kids. They went and ate, and then they hung out. I got a room where it was like you walked in and there's 2 queen beds, and then you went up the stairs and there's a loft with another bed. So there was 3 beds. There was 3 of us, so they could kind of go up or go down, and we each kind of had a space. Like I went up to hang out with them when they were down, whatever. Yeah. So.
Well, that's
I love
fun.
when they do the wristband things for when you have kids and you're like, be free.
Yeah, and they can just run around the resort. Yeah, that does make it a lot nicer.
I actually enjoyed getting to be around Peyton's girlfriend more. Like I went away from the weekend really liking her. Mm-hmm. Like I really good surface and stuff. To really like sit down and talk about stuff and get a little deeper. It's like, okay, I really like her.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know, like, I mean, obviously, your son and how sweet and wonderful he is. So I can't imagine, because he is like, he's one of the kindest kids I have ever met. And so I can't imagine a person he would be that wasn't just as kind and sweet, and that wasn't like thoughtful.
It makes sense. Can be very high drama, and that's one of the things we talked about. She's like, I know I do, and when I really kind of talked to her, I said, you know what? I was like, maybe there's nothing wrong with that if you're kind of aware of it, and it's just who you are.
Yeah.
And maybe the people around you, and that's what my inner thought was, maybe I need to adapt to this. As long as she's not really harming anybody, that's just who she is.
You know what? This is actually a conversation I had with Hale, my youngest, the other day, was that, she is really emotional about stuff, but she is in an environment where that's okay. Like, we've given her the space to be as dramatic and as over the top as she wants to be. So when she gets upset about something, she is quick to tell us. When she is sad about something, she's quick to cry. She's quick to be angry. Like, all her emotions just come out because she's never had to shut them down.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is one thing that more women, young women especially, they need to be told that, to not make themselves quiet to please other people.
Or you're too much thing.
Yeah.
That's what it really made me think of when I was talking to her. I was like, and I need to do some self-correcting here.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Because I remember what it was like to have so many emotions like her, and to be like just having to shut it down all the time, because it was like not, I wasn't in a space where I could just do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There are time and place for certain behaviors and stuff like that, and decorum. We talk about that a lot, like when to control it. But for the most part, when she's home with us, like, she had a really rough day the other day when I picked her up. And as soon as she got in the car, she slammed the door and she just unloaded. And like, she was just like, and this happened and this happened. She's crying the whole time. And, and I just was like, I went straight to Starbucks. I was like, all right, we're going to get a drink. We're going to get a drink and we're going to talk this out. And so we just rode around and we talked. And when we got home, she was totally fine. And like, she did her homework, no problem. Or, we came in the door and like, I just stopped her and I was like, hey, I was like, I know you had a really tough day and that sucks. I was like, but thank you so much for telling me. Thank you for sharing with me. Like, I really appreciate that you tell me about your day, even if it sucks. And even if I can't do anything to fix it, I'm always happy to listen. And she was like, no problem. And then she just walked up. It was like, like everything's fine. Mm-hmm. And I feel like because she's been given the space to just dump like that, just emotionally dump, that she's such a she's so much more emotionally mature than I ever was at that age, at 10 years old. She's so emotionally mature. And it sounds like maybe a little bit of that with Peyton's girlfriend as well, where it's like, she's, like you say, she's aware of it. She knows that it's happening. Well, okay, so what?
Yeah.
Like, she knows it. Great. All right, cool. Keep going. Yeah. So I think that's awesome. So take this as a tip, lady listeners. Be dramatic. Lose your shit. Fucking go off. This is your cue. Lose your fucking minds.
And you'll get a real understanding of who's with you and who's not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about Lydia Michaels. You want to?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, Lydia Michaels is the best-selling and award-winning author of more than 40 novels. She writes heart-clenching, unpredictable romance with dark elements and high heat. Her work is character-driven and bursting with broken heroes and badass females. With a sweet spot for overbearing territorial types, her deeply emotional books are spicy, emotionally satisfying, and guaranteed to leave readers with many book hangovers. Today's book is called Calamity Rayne, Over the Moon. After throwing the wedding of the century, Calamity Rayne, a.k.a. the new Mrs. Davenport, is overdue for a little rest and porn-a-cation. I love that. Luckily, Hale has planned an 8-week honeymoon. What could possibly go wrong? Join the newlyweds for a wet and wild adventure in this delightfully naughty, opposites attract billionaire novella from bestselling author Lydia Michaels. So she has this ebook available now. Like, you can listen to the audiobook, and if you want to go get the ebook, she has it up as well. But if you like listening to this, readers, you can start at the beginning of the series. This can be a standalone, but you can go to the start of the Calamity Rayne series. The first book is free, and we've got a link down in the show notes to get it. And you can read several of her other books for free in that as well. But this series, the beginning of it's free. If you like this book, you like listening to it, and you want to hear about their wedding and whatnot, go back, start the series for free. And if you want to listen more after this, like what comes next, Calamity Rayne, Over the Moon is book 4 in the series. The 5th book, called Calamity Rayne, Knocked Up, just released, so that's available now. And she said readers love Calamity Rayne, which is why it's remained a bestseller on Amazon for 2024. But with nearly 50 books today, there are several others to choose from, like the #1 Amazon bestseller for vampire thrillers, The Order of Vampires. So if you want to read more, if you like what you listened to today and you think, how about vampires? She's got you. So you can go check that out. The Order of the Vampires, we'll have that down in the show notes as well. And you can find Lydia Michaels on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the places. She's also got a page on BookBub and Goodreads. And again, we'll have all those links in the show notes, or we'll have them on our website, readmeromance.com. Or if you just check out any of our social medias, we'll have Lydia tagged and everything. You'll be able to find her. So I think that's everything.
Let's send them in.
Let's do it.
We'll see you guys on the other side.
This is Calamity Rayne, Over the Moon, a Calamity Rayne novella, Book 4, by Lydia Michaels, Read for you by Ellen Valentine. Failure to launch. I've never made it a secret that I struggle with the adulting. 1 year ago, my life looked completely different. I was paying off loads of college debt, not using my degree, and blissfully living paycheck to paycheck while bartending at an underwhelming hole-in-the-wall in Oregon. So, how did I get here? Well, it's an interesting story, and a hot one, with a lot of unpredictable twists and jaw-dropping turns. Honestly, I've barely had time to catch my breath since I shifted from the pokey lane to the jet-set lifestyle of a billionaire's wife. Yep, I said billionaire, with a big old B. He's not a dick either, but he does have a big one. To be clear, it's never been about the money for me. It was a little about the personal chef he had when we met because food is my porn. And a lot about the orgasms, because I never knew such things were possible for me. But never about his fortune. No clue how I landed my own personal Prince Charming. It's not like I came with any sort of sex skills or strategy. But somehow, in all of my clumsy awkwardness, Hale fell in love with the real me. That's Hale sleeping right over there. Sure, he doesn't look like much in that chin-to-chest dad pose with his hands folded around that plush unicorn, but believe me, when he's conscious and vertical, he's a total smoke show. He's resting because we have a 10-month-old daughter who just started walking. Chasing her little butt around is freaking exhausting. That's Peanut sleeping next to him. Sure. She looks all innocent now, curled up like a little cherub with her meep-meep sheep. But I promise there are little nubs under those soft curls where horns are starting to grow. She's only in the button-buck stages of demonized behavior, so I'm still hopeful. But if her tongue starts to fork, we're in trouble. I sighed. Who was I kidding? They were both perfect. Yes, Hale was a bit of a neatnik, operating under some severe and technically undiagnosed OCD, but those control-freak proclivities had served him well so far. And Alara, a.k.a. Peanut, well, she was the other love of my life, and just as stubborn as her father. Yes, the Davenport DNA was strong in that one. I was going to miss her while we were gone. Chewing my lip, I glanced at the various stacks of new clothes. How was I ever going to fit all of that into those tiny suitcases? It had been 1 week since the wedding, and the guests, aside from Hale's mom and the nanny, were all gone. Thank God. Don't get me wrong, I appreciated everyone coming out to celebrate with us, but people were exhausting, and 99.9% of those guests were Hale's friends, not mine. I had 11 guests at our wedding. 11. Hale had 312. Suffice it to say, I was ready to get away. It had been weeks since I'd been home, and our flight was leaving in 12 hours. My stomach hurt every time I considered how long we would actually be gone and how much Alara would change. 2 months seemed excessive, but billionaires like to be extra. I glanced back at the two of them. The fading sun illuminated the Manhattan skyline, casting Hale in a golden glow and bringing out the rosiness of Alara's cheeks. "What's wrong?" Hale hadn't moved from his comfy position as he watched me through those intuitive silver eyes. "Nothing's wrong." "Rayne, I know that face." I sighed. "Maybe we planned too much. 2 months is a really long time to be away. Alara's going to be 1 by the time we get back. We're coming home the week before her birthday. We talked about this, Rayne. Alara will be in Avalon with my mom and Andrew. We can video conference and see them every day.
Hale, have you ever tried video conferencing with a toddler?
I do it every time I'm away on business.
Hale traveled a lot, so he was used to distance. But I was a homebody. I hadn't been away from Peanut for more than 5 days since she was born. He stood, tucking the plush unicorn next to Meep Meep and covering his daughter with a soft blanket.
You're tense,
he said, as he gently worked the knots out of my shoulders. This was how we operated whenever I became neurotic. I'd get worked up, and Hale would soothe me. But I didn't want my feelings minimized, so I fidgeted away. I'm serious, Hale.
So am I. You have to take it 1 day at a time. Focus on packing, and the rest will all fall into place.
Maybe for him. I'm never going to fit all of this. We're going to too many destinations. He kissed the side of my neck, and a shiver chased down my spine.
You're not going to need half of this. I plan to have you naked most of the time.
Hale, even if we spend most days in bed, we'll still have to venture out to find food.
I'll keep you fed.
His hand snaked under my t-shirt, palm warm and gentle as he cupped my breast. I couldn't concentrate when he rolled my nipple like that. I have to leave some of this stuff behind. He buried his face in my shoulder, kissing and nipping those sensitive curves and making me twitch. If he made it to my earlobe, I was done. What about this? Do I need this? I held up the string bikini Hale's sister had insisted I buy on our last shopping spree. He pulled the bikini out of my hand and tossed it onto the table.
Come with me.
But I have to finish packing.
You can finish after we're done.
He towed me through the penthouse until we were standing in the master bedroom. Alara will be awake soon,
so we better hurry.
He stripped out of his shirt and lounge pants. I backed into the bed. Hale, I'm still in my PJs. He caught the front of my faded t-shirt and tugged me forward.
You're full of excuses. Let me distract you.
Good luck. I was an incurable overthinker, and for good reason. Overthinking helped me prepare for the multitude of calamities that befell me regularly. Not everyone was as lucky as Hale. He crouched and caught me by the back of the knees, flipping me onto the bed.
That's better.
Hale, I'm not in the right headspace for this. I still have to go through my toiletries and pack up the wedding clothes for the cleaner and... Hello? He yanked down my panties and dove forward, closing his mouth over my clit and pressing his fingers deep. I arched into him, losing my train of thought. There it is. His other hand went to my breast. This was why the show-off got whatever he wanted in the bedroom. He was a fucking sex god.
I can't hear you, Rayne. You have to show me you like it or I'll stop.
Don't you dare stop now. I fisted his hair, riding his face hard as he teased my clit and drove me over the edge. He groaned, licking over me as he curled his fingers, dragging out my climax until I was arching off the bed and begging for mercy. When he finally lifted his face from between my thighs, he smiled with sheer arrogance, dragging his thumb under his lip and then sucking it clean.
Better?
I hate you. He caught my legs, stretched them open, and leaned forward, pressing my knees into the mattress.
That's no way to speak to your husband, especially after he just made you come.
I told you, I had stuff to do. No clue what that stuff was now, but that wasn't the point.
I can see I still have work to do.
Hale, no, I have to.
Open wide, baby.
Wait! He was so quick, pinning my arms over my head and moving up my body. My words cut off as his cock hit the back of my throat. I let out a garbled cry and looked up at him with wide eyes.
Show me how much you love it when I distract you. Then I'll let you go. But be very convincing, Rayne, or I'll keep you here all night. Another muffled moan. We didn't have all night. Take it like a good girl. Damn him for using those magic words when I had shit to do. I loosened my jaw and opened my throat, as a good girl does, and he nudged deeper. Now let me see those green eyes. When I looked up at him, he groaned. There's my good little wife. He drew back and thrust slowly, his chiseled body an absolute work of art as he glided in and out effortlessly. Beautiful, Rayne. I wasn't sure what it was about seeing to his pleasure that quieted all the noise inside my head. Maybe it was the way he praised me, or the absolute command he had over me that set me free. The gentle way he demanded all of my focus relieved me of my worries and control in a way that melted my insides. Such a good girl. He cupped the back of my head, and my eyes started to tear. Hold it there. I did everything he asked. My body was his to command. The longer he took his pleasure, the more aroused I became. Tracing his fingers over my cheek, he wiped away a tear. Feel better now, baby? Drawing back, he fisted his hard length, stroking himself out of my reach so I could answer. Yes. Every tense muscle in my body had softened. Even my voice was lower. You spoil me, baby. The truth was, Hale indulged me way more than I spoiled him. Not with material things, though he did love to pamper me with gifts, but with patience and love. He sat back, stroking his engorged length. Do you want to stop? Feeling pleasantly fragile and protected under his care, I shook my head, always a little shy whenever he tapped into my submissive side. No? Did you want more? When I nodded, he leaned forward, gently pressing deep again. Hale never wanted me to be anything other than myself. He never tried to quiet my thoughts or mute my presence. He was interested in every emotion I had, and often helped me work through my anxiety in ways I never imagined possible. The moments when he disrupted my panic and took me away to a place of love and pleasure, a place where I was safe and adored, those were the peaceful moments I lived for. Despite Hale's intense work schedule and rigid standards, he was always incredibly nurturing with me. He never made me feel insecure or judged. That was how I knew he was my soulmate. That's enough. He drew back and repositioned our bodies. I need to get inside of you. Pulling me onto his lap, he helped me seat myself. Hale was incredibly well endowed, so it always took me a moment to adjust. That's it, baby. Nice and slow. He held my hips, guiding my body as I lowered. Our mouths collided in a passionate kiss. Then he urged me to ride him faster. I loved those seconds before he finished, when his control seemed to slip and something wild flashed in his eyes. All of his usual, carefully crafted, well-bred pedigree manners disappeared, and he became a beast. Driven by desire and pure, raw ego, he took exactly what he wanted, stretching me to accommodate his pleasure while thrusting hard and fast. Fuck. The greedy way he used my body filled me with a sense of accomplishment. That's it, baby. Yes. He threw me to my back and caught my wrists, pinning them to the pillows as sweat glistened on his golden skin. Whose fucking pussy is this? Yours. Fucking right it is. He rammed forward, insisting I feel every inch of his hard cock, and then we were both coming. I sometimes wondered if he reflected on the things he said in those fevered moments of passion. But as soon as he finished, his mask of well-bred composure slid back into place. He kissed me softly. I love you, Rayne. I love you too. He withdrew, kissing my breasts, my belly, and my clit before leaving the bed. Then the shower turned on. I smirked. Hale hated leaving a mess, but he never minded making one. I, on the other hand, was of the lazy bum school of sex. I would loaf around in bed for at least an hour, and possibly take a nap. Or so I thought. The sound of Alara's voice shifted me right out of my role as newlywed sex goddess into mom mode. Maybe it would be nice to get away for a while. Sliding back into my wrinkled t-shirt, I went to get Peanut. She smiled when she saw me and held up Meep Meep. "Did you have a nice nap, Peanut?" "Meep Meep," she said, showing me that the stuffed sheep hadn't abandoned her. I was such a sucker for those pink gums and that toothy grin. "How about we find a snack? Mummy's starved." She climbed into my arms. The sight of the clothes strewn all over the table returned my anxiety faster than I would have liked. But my head was a little clearer now. I realized it wasn't so much the wardrobe stressing me out, it was the pressure to make the honeymoon as memorable as possible, sans unforeseeable disasters. I loved Hale so much, and I wanted him to enjoy this trip. I felt personally responsible for his rest and pleasure over the next 2 months because, in my goofy head, that would communicate how much I adored and appreciated him. But they didn't call me Calamity Rayne for nothing, and chances were there would be some hiccups along the way. Control freaks and calamities. "Rayne, where's the travel bag?" "Which travel bag is that, Hale?" He was driving me crazy. I had everything sorted in the foyer. Our luggage for the honeymoon was to the left, and the boxes getting shipped home on the right. Alara's luggage was waiting to get picked up and transported into the limo, taking her, the nanny, and Naomi to New Jersey. The black Hermes bag. It had our itinerary in it and the flight information. Haven't seen it. There had been several lists and emails and too many itineraries for me to count since the wedding. Once we said "I do," I decided I was done with all the lists. Clearly, I was suffering from PTBSD, post-traumatic bride stress disorder. But vacation mode had set in, and I was no longer taking on needless obligations or senseless stress. "I need to check the times for our flights." "Hale, you've checked the schedules 20,000 times. You've rewritten them, you've read them out loud, and you even saved them into your notes on your phone," he snapped. "Right." And I lost him. Hale withdrew his phone to obsess over our unchanged travel schedule some more. "I emailed it to you, so you have a copy." "Great. I was looking for something enthralling to read on the flight." "I'm just trying to make sure everything goes according to plan." "I know, and I'm choosing to ignore your anal retentive compulsive need to obsess over unchanged details because I love you. And I know this is one of the many ways you love me back. But Hale, if you act like a nitpicky perfectionist once we're on the islands, I will duct tape your mouth shut." I smiled sweetly. "'Kay?" He held my stare and shut off his phone. "Point taken." We were taking the private jet out of JFK International Airport at 7 and would be in the air for approximately 4 hours before landing on the sunny island of Turks and Caicos. My stress levels were already plummeting at the mere thought of ocean breezes, weather in the mid-80s, and passing day after commitment-free day on the powdery white beaches overlooking the turquoise sea. So I wasn't going to let Hale's OCD cramp my chill vibe. An army of bellmen appeared, and Hale directed them with the authority of a military leader. I ignored the chaos and pre-gamed in the kitchen with the butler, who had just made me a delicious margarita. I'm going to miss your margaritas, Percy.
Thank you, madame, but I'm sure they'll have delicious cocktails at your next destination.
But yours are made with love.
Thank you, madame. The trick's in the limes and cilantro.
I raised a brow. Interesting.
Rayne,
Hale paused in the doorway.
you're drinking?
I raised a brow. Are we not supposed to? He pocketed his phone and wallet.
The cars will be packed in 20 minutes. It's time to say goodbye to Alara.
My good mood evaporated. This was why I needed alcohol. 20 minutes later, Hale was consoling me in the back of the sleek town car as I wept quietly and considered canceling the whole trip.
She'll be fine, baby. We can check in with them as soon as we land.
I knew he was right, but it felt like I was leaving my heart behind. That regretful sentiment evaporated, however, the moment we hit the islands. Our villa was an ivory masterpiece, stunningly contrasting against the cerulean blue of the ocean that mirrored the flawless sky. It was our own personal Eden, a literal heaven on earth, and I was on board for a long week full of sin. We started each day with mind-blowing sex, a few screaming orgasms, then a boozy brunch, and a good morning called a peanut. We slept off all that hard work on the beach, followed by a soak in the hot spa, and more incredible sex. Each day concluded with a decadent dinner, then night swimming under the stars, which inevitably led to, you guessed it, more sex. I had a feeling Hale was trying to cash in on his wedding gift. I gave him the only thing I knew he really wanted and couldn't buy: consent to knock me up. Was I ready to have a baby? No, not really. But I hadn't been prepared for half the shit in my life, and things were working out okay. Plus, I loved being a mommy to Alara. My life was already full of rattles and diapers, so why not add some more? After Turks and Caicos, it was off to the Maldives. No private jet on this trip because that flight was a hell of a long jaunt. 21 freaking hours with only a short layover in between. I experienced every possible emotion on that journey, and honestly, I was shocked Hale hadn't thrown me off the plane at one point. But man, was it worth it. Maldives was the perfect, idyllic setting for a romantic getaway. The seas were calm, the skies were clear, and the breathtaking coral reefs were just beyond the pristine beaches. This time, we were staying in a private little hut right on top of the water. Hale said it was the perfect place for snorkeling and diving. To be clear, I'd never been much of an adventure girl, nor was I into water sports, or any sports for that matter. Honestly, walking left me winded some days, and I never ran unless something was chasing me. But I was coming to discover Hale was a bit of an adrenaline seeker. So I made arrangements for us to do some underwater exploring. I was an okay swimmer, meaning I survived by doggy paddle, but Hale had been on the swim team in college. He'd grown up on various coasts. He spent a lot of time at sea on his father's yacht and often sailed with his brother. I should have known I'd be way out of my league.
Where did you say you rented this equipment?
Hale asked, as he examined what I had thought was top-of-the-line snorkeling gear. They were advertised on one of the brochures. I'd been slightly persuaded by the cute little cartoon fish in the ad, but now I sensed I might have been swindled. Does yours smell like fish? Mine smells a little like fish. Hale sniffed the rubbery material.
Mine smells fine.
I held up my mismatched flippers. Why?
They probably just lost one.
I frowned. Were swimmers returning one fin short? What happened to the other flipper? Was the foot okay? Are there sharks here?
You'll be fine, Rayne. As soon as we're in the water, you won't be able to smell anything. and you'll be so captivated by the beauty, your worries will wash away.
That didn't sound like me. How did one launder a rubber wetsuit? Hale pulled on his gear and looked like a model in a water sports catalog. I looked like a short, chubby porpoise who would only get cast as the comic relief in a Pixar movie. Oh, this is not flattering. Hale laughed in an aren't you cute and clueless way. I pursed my lips and scowled. This was not going as I'd imagined.
The water's warm, Rayne. If you want, skip the wetsuit and go in your suit.
But I wanted to look cool like him. Plus, Hale would be watching me through goggles, so I preferred to keep my buoyant parts covered. I just need you to zip me up. My string's broken. Hale had gotten the Mercedes of snorkel gear, and I was rocking a 1970s jalopy with rusted parts. I pulled on my mismatched flippers and waddled forward, then stilled, looking around. What was that? I took another few steps along the deck, each one making a squishy fart sound. When I turned back to look at Hale, I knew he heard it too. My wetsuit's farting.
Are you sure it's the suit?
That's not me.
Of course not. Come on.
He walked past me, not a bit of waddle to his steps, and no embarrassing sounds coming from his gear. I thought things would improve underwater, but I was wrong. I couldn't get my mask to seal tightly around my hair, so water continuously leaked into my eyes. I had a limp snorkel, which caused me to choke on unwanted drops of water.
Let me see it,
Hale said, stopping his majestic underwater tour to investigate the problem.
Everything looks fine.
But it wasn't fine. My snorkel has erectile dysfunction.
We'll switch.
Once I had Hale's mask on, there was no more leaking or limp snorkel business. But my mask kept fogging up. Losing vision underwater made me panic, which made the fog worse. Maybe I was claustrophobic. Go, I garbled at Hale, who floated majestically about like King freaking Triton. I knew he wanted to explore, and I was holding him up. Obviously, snorkeling wasn't for me. I found the entire experience rather fatiguing and humiliating. A school of fish rushed past me, and I panicked, bubbles shooting out of my wetsuit. I must have made a sound of distress, because Hale turned. He pointed the underwater camera in my direction, capturing video. That's when I saw a huge fucking jellyfish and was pretty sure I pissed myself. Something to look forward to on the home movies. When we returned to land, I was beyond relieved. Hale looked rejuvenated and happy with his gift. How could two people experience one thing so differently? I waddled back to the dock, my suit farting with every step. I was more than ready to return to the tiki bar on the beach and file snorkeling away as shit I never wanted to do again. Hale took my hand.
Thanks for arranging that.
You're welcome. Had he made the arrangements, I probably would have had more fun and a wetsuit that didn't queef. Did you get some good footage?
I did. Take a look.
He tipped the screen of the camera, using the shade of the palm trees to block the glare of the sun. I expected to see coral reefs and exotic fish, but what I saw was a montage of myself exploring underwater. My hair was wild and waving like a mermaid's, and my body looked perfectly fine. I looked cute. You didn't record any of the fish.
I got footage of all the beauty I wanted to remember.
I looked up at him and smiled. Hale.
What?
I gave him a shoulder bump, my secret handshake and code for, I love you. He kissed my damp head.
What do you say we get you a cocktail and have a long shower followed by a longer nap?
I'd say now you're speaking my language. After Maldives came Seychelles, where we stayed in a luxurious treehouse in the lush, tropical forests overlooking the Indian Ocean. There had been a lot of afternoon rain, which led to lots of afternoon sex. My kind of adventuring. Hale had mentioned ziplining, but on account of the weather, I dodged that bullet safely. Thank God. When we boarded our next flight, my hair had grown twice its usual size. You're staring. So? Look, there's nothing I can do. It's the humidity. I think the curls are sexy. They're not curls as much as they're inflated frizz. Well, I think they're hot. You look like a wild woman. They match the new freckles on the bridge of your nose. That's sunburn. Still sexy. He stretched out his legs and made himself comfortable as the plane started to move. Throw you in a tattered rag and we could play Thunderdome. Are you having an apocalyptic fantasy right now? Maybe. Or you could wear a little leopard bikini and play my captive, a native souvenir I found in the jungle to see to my pleasure. Obviously, role-playing was in my near future. We landed in Bora Bora a full day later. This time, I planned better by packing plenty of books. It also helped that I started the flight drunk. We were back in another stunning overwater bungalow, surrounded by a crystal-clear sea. So far, Bora Bora was my favorite. Our luxury hut had a small kitchenette, and that inspired me to do something nice for Hale. I arranged for a few groceries to be delivered and planned to make Hale a home-cooked meal. After weeks away, I thought American comfort food might be appreciated. But I hadn't anticipated how complicated it would be to cook in an undersupplied kitchen. Breakfast didn't make it to bed as I planned. Instead, Hale awoke in a panic to the shrill squeal of the fire alarm as smoke billowed from the toaster. Shit. I unplugged the machine, unsure what to do with it as the grease from the bacon spattered off the pan and caught fire. Fire! Get back, Hale yelled, pushing me aside to move the pan off the flame. I was about to throw water on it when he stopped me and smothered the blaze with the metal lid, then shut off the burner. He caught his breath and looked at me. You okay? I coughed and fanned away the smoke. I'm fine. Did you burn yourself? He glanced at the singed hair on his arm. It's fine. You never throw water on a grease fire, baby. I knew that, but I'd been in a panic and not thinking. I just wanted to make you a nice breakfast. All of my hard work was ruined. He lifted the lid off the pan and plucked up a singed strip of bacon, biting into the black ash. Delicious. Liar, you don't have to eat that. I tried to take it from him, but he dodged my hand. I want to eat it. You made it for me. I rolled my eyes and carried the ruined food to the trash. Hey. His arms closed around my shoulders. Thank you for trying. While I appreciated his gratitude, I didn't feel I deserved it. First, the snorkeling, and now this? We would have nothing but memories of calamities to take home with us if I kept trying to do nice things. I keep messing up our trip. You haven't messed anything up that can't be fixed. He turned me so I was facing him, and then he lifted my chin, forcing me to meet his stare. You're the only person in the world who does this sort of thoughtful stuff for me, and it is thoughtful. That's what counts. So when I say thank you, I mean it. Understand? I nodded. How about you get dressed, and we go back to that cafe we passed yesterday. We'll have a nice breakfast while I arrange to have someone come clean this up. And then we'll spend the day wasting away on the beach. Then we'll check on Alara. That sounded perfect. And because Hale planned it, it was. No hijinks or hiccups for the rest of the day. Things get hard. After 3 weeks of sunny seclusion, I was happy to return to a sense of society, even if it was still a far cry from our normal non-vacation life. The upscale clubs, gourmet restaurants, and designer boutiques of St. Bart's brought a welcome change from our long and lazy beach days. I wasn't complaining about the lazy days. I could loaf around forever. But Hale was getting antsy. He was in his glory among all the glamour and sophistication of St. Bart's, which allowed him to spoil me when we visited the many affluent boutiques. I didn't need the gifts, but he loved surprising me. I just don't understand, I said, after he dropped a small fortune on a bag. Why does anyone need a purse that costs that much? There will be no money left to put in the damn thing. Hale just laughed. You know, some women appreciate such luxuries. I do appreciate it. I just don't get it. He kissed my head in that affectionate way that said he got a kick out of my logic. While many women had champagne tastes on a beer budget, I was totally content with beer. Hale's wealth overwhelmed me, so I preferred not to think about it. But as a man who only dated gold diggers before moi, he struggled to accept his fortune wasn't the flex it once was. After St. Bart's, we were off to Fiji, to another secluded villa. But this one came with a personal chef, something I think Hale added on last minute after the whole breakfast fiasco. Fiji was the perfect blend of luxury and adventure, with its lush landscapes and impeccable hospitality. But there wasn't much nightlife. After supper, the chef would leave, and we were often left to entertain ourselves. A tropical storm had come through on our last days there. I was cozied up on the indoor hammock, reading a naughty little romance I'd picked up at the airport, when the music kicked on. Paging Mrs. Davenport. Will Mrs. Davenport please come to the bedroom? I turned the page amid some hot and heavy book boyfriend fornication. Mrs. Davenport is reading right now. Hale appeared in the doorway, antsy from being cooped up all day. You're still reading that book? It's good. Hale said something as the hero's pants loosened, and he kicked apart the protagonist's feet as she leaned into the wall. Earth to Mrs. Davenport. Hale slid his finger down the inside of the spine and lowered the book. Hey, I was reading that. Hey, your husband needs attention. I was torn. Hunky book boyfriend versus real life hunky husband? I don't know, it's getting really good. He took the book and tossed it across the room. I'm better. The hammock rocked violently as Hale climbed beside me. No, wait! My death grip saved me from falling. That's better. I forked my fingers through his soft waves. Sometimes Hale needed a different sort of affection, the kind I don't think he knew existed before me. He sighed and closed his eyes. That's nice. After 30 days together, he seemed to seek out this sort of nurturing more often. I'd hold him, and he'd let down his guard. I supposed it was his way of recharging. Typically, Hale traveled at least once every 10 days. We were discovering little things about each other on our honeymoon, but none of those discoveries were bad. Do you realize, Hale, that this is the longest consecutive time we spent together since we first met? That wasn't that long ago. No, it wasn't. Our honeymoon was going to amount to 1/6 of our total relationship. The deluge outside pummeled the Coral Sea as the setting sun fought for a place in the sky. The distant mountains created a beautifully moody view. I kissed his head. He glanced up at me. That felt intentional. It was. What was it for? I was just thinking how far we've come and how lucky I am to have you. Deep down, I knew we never would have made it this far if not for Hale. I'm just as lucky. He honestly believed that, which was another reason I loved him. Did Rajan go home? About an hour ago. He left you some extra pineapple pie in the fridge. Thank you again for getting us a chef. Food was my love language, and Hale spoke it very well. He toyed with the shell buttons of my sundress, sliding them free until my dress parted, enough to fully expose my breasts and belly. His fingers trailed slowly from the lace of my panties to my collarbone, and my nipples tightened. Flattening his palm on my stomach, he asked, "Anything yet?" It was still too soon, but I was beginning to suspect Hale found a sort of kink in trying to plant his seed in me. I only stopped taking the pill the day after the wedding, but I wasn't sure how long it took to fully get out of my system. I'll talk to my doctor when we get home, but it's probably going to take a while, Hale.
I can be patient while being persistent.
The hammock rocked as he cupped my breast, pulling my puckered nipple to his mouth. I arched beneath his touch, shutting my eyes as he teased the tip with his tongue. The more he ground his body against mine, the more the hammock shifted. "We should go to the bedroom."
What's wrong with right here?
The hammock wobbled, and I clung to the sides. "I'm afraid we're going to flip. I can't relax."
I won't let you flip.
He plumped my breasts and went back to what he was doing. "Ah! Did you just bite me?" He gave me a devilish grin.
Did it hurt?
I frowned. It was more shocking than anything else. "A little."
Did you like it?
My cheeks heated. "A little."
Interesting.
He nipped me again. "Hale!"
I like your nipples dark and swollen.
He brushed his lips softly over the hard tips.
Let me make you come this way.
I doubted that was possible. "You can try."
Is that a challenge?
I leaned back and stretched to open my arms. "I'm all yours."
Good girl.
He kissed one nipple.
Such a good little wife.
Then he kissed the other.
So eager to please.
When his mouth closed over the tip, he wasn't messing around. My back bowed, and I moaned at the intense shock. But then something happened. The harder he sucked, the better it felt. My insides tightened and my sex pulsed. He released my swollen flesh with a pop.
Look at that.
I glanced down, startled by how dark and turgid he'd made the tip. Then he pinched it. "Ah!"
So fucking sexy.
He grinned and latched on to the other one, sucking equally as hard. When I squirmed, he held me tight, forcing me to come to peace with a slight sting. Just like before, the sharp tease of pain shifted into something dark and delicious before it truly hurt. When he pulled away, I angled my body toward him, silently seeking more, and not at all shocked that Hale could show me something new and have me begging for it in no time at all.
You like it?
I bit my lip and nodded. Tomorrow would likely be a different story, but right now, it felt incredible. He plumped my breasts and went to town. The son of a bitch was right. The longer he sucked and pinched, the more erotic it felt. Soon enough, I was enjoying a delicate little orgasm from nothing but nipple play. "Can we please go to the bedroom now?" I needed him inside of me.
Not a chance. Stay put.
The hammock swung as he stood and stripped off his clothes. Then he repositioned me so I was sitting on the hammock like a swing, facing him. When he stripped away my dress, he paused to admire my nipples.
Look how red and engorged they are. Do they hurt?
He grazed the tips with a gentle finger, and I sucked in a sharp breath. "They're sensitive."
Good.
Lean back. The moment I did, he stripped away my panties.
These are very wet, Mrs. Davenport.
My skin burned. "Well, what do you expect, Mr. Davenport?"
How about a thank you?
I rolled my eyes. "Thank you for breaking my nipples and making me come." He stepped forward, fisting his hand in my hair and angling my face for a kiss. only to tease me with his mouth and make me want him all the more.
I'd never break you.
He finally kissed me softly.
But I am going to fuck you. Hard. Ready?
Yeah. Before I had the word out, he caught my knees and pulled me to the edge of the hammock. Gripping my ankles, he opened my body in a wide V and thrust deep. I gripped the canvas and gasped. The hammock created a sense of weightless ease that let him slide my body however he wanted. Over and over, he pulled me into him, slamming his cock deep and hard.
I wish you could see how fucking beautiful you look right now. Mine. Spread open as I slide my cock in and out of your wet pussy. I'm gonna fuck you so hard, you'll feel me inside of you for days. And you're gonna let me, aren't you?
Yes, I gasped.
That's my good girl.
He released my legs, letting them drape over his muscled arms as he controlled the hammock, sliding me into him and pushing me back. Over and over, he seated himself to the hilt, pelvis to pelvis. Every time I slammed down on him, he brought me closer to the euphoric madness only he could create.
Pinch your nipples, Rayne. Hold them tight and don't let go.
I was lost, swinging into him like a pleasure toy he could fuck as hard and freely as he desired. He grunted, telling me how much he loved me, loved fucking me, loved watching me, loved tasting me, loved possessing me the way no other man ever would. Then I was screaming and coming all over his dick. He went deeper and was able to fuck me harder the more I surrendered. By the time he finished, I was worthless, far too tired to move to the bedroom, so we both curled up on the hammock and slept there, listening to the rain and watching the moon reflect on the water through the clouds. As expected, my tits were killing me the next day. The slightest movement had me gasping in exquisite pain and remembering how good he'd made me feel the night before. When we buckled in for another long flight, I said, I think we need to invest in a hammock when we get home.
Say less.
He was already pulling out his phone and placing the order.
Done.
Aloha! We arrived in Italy the following morning and took a boat into the harbor on the Amalfi Coast. Our villa overlooked the Mediterranean Sea and provided a breathtaking view of the brightly colored villages. But I was most excited about the food. Of course, Hale spoke flawless Italian, so he was a great tour guide. He couldn't remember how many times he'd visited, but he'd guessed he'd been to Italy at least 30 times. The man seriously got around. The first night, we feasted on spaghetti alla vongole, and the next night it was sciatelli ai frutti di mare. I tried tortellini alla caravella and bistecca alla fiorentina. But my absolute favorite was the ravioli di ricotta e limone. 5 days, and my clothes were snugger than ever. But I had absolutely no regrets. I think we should stay here. Hale laughed.
I knew you'd love Italy, and this is only the Amalfi Coast. Wait until we come back and visit Tuscany. You'll love the north. It's a much more leisurely pace up there.
The man did know me well. I lived for the slow stuff. Is there any of the zeppole left? He tossed me a small bag filled with the sugary fried dough. I opened it up and frowned. What's this? What's gravidanza?
Don't eat it,
he teased, taking the package out of my hand and opening the box.
You pee on it. It's a test.
Hale, I rolled my eyes. I told you, it's too soon.
It's been 5.5 weeks, Rayne, and we've had sex nearly every day without interruption.
But these things take... Oh, shit. I did quick period math. We left New York on April 11th, and I hadn't had my period since 2 weeks before the wedding. It had been a lot longer than 5 weeks. Give me the test. He handed the applicator over and followed me into the bathroom. I looked up at him expectantly. Are you waiting for something?
Does this bother you?
I did very little things gracefully. The vision of me aiming my pee at a tiny stick might be hard to shake. Yes, a little privacy, please.
As you wish.
He shut the door. I was not good at directing my stream, and very grateful I hadn't let him stick around to watch. After washing my hands, I brought the stick out to the kitchen, where Hale waited at the table. Together, we stared at it. What are the rules? I asked. Is it still plus and minus in Italy?
Have you taken a lot of pregnancy tests before?
No, but I watch television. I know how these things work. In America, at least. He read the tiny words.
2 lines if it's positive, 1 line for negative.
I chewed on my thumbnail as the first line appeared. How long does it take?
We should know in a few minutes.
And where did you say the zeppole was? He slid another paper bag in front of me, this one actually filled with sugary dough. I took a large bite and chewed anxiously. It had to be done by now.
It's negative,
he said, snatching it off the table and tossing it in the trash. Are you mad?
Not mad, just disappointed.
Hale, we just started trying. You have to be patient.
I am being patient.
He picked up his iPad and headed into the den. I followed. What are you doing?
Just checking on some work things.
He was in a mood I didn't feel like navigating. Paging Mr. Davenport, I teased, but he only half smiled. Hey, I stole his tablet. This isn't a simple thing, and you're making it feel like a failure when it's not. He sighed.
You're right. I'm sorry.
I climbed onto his lap and wreathed my arms around his shoulders. It'll happen when it's meant to happen. He pressed his forehead to mine and grinned, his hand sliding to my belly.
I can't wait to see you pregnant, to see what our child will look like.
I smiled at the sweet thought. Will she have green or gray eyes?
I hope she looks just like you.
And if it's a boy?
Then I hope he has your sense of humor.
And your business sense, for a boy or a girl, I added. He stroked my cheek, tucking my hair behind my ear, as he pulled me in for a slow kiss.
Let's try again,
he whispered, already stripping away my clothes. Conscious of the open windows and the fact that we were in a very small village with busy sidewalks and tourists passing, I kept my body turned so only Hale could see my bare chest. He kissed my shoulders and breasts.
Loosen my pants.
I reached between us and lifted as he pushed my dress up to my hips. Sliding my panties aside, I lowered onto his hard length, and we both moaned. Put a baby in me, Hale. His fist tangled in my hair as he kissed me hard. My body rocked as I rode him, our breathy moans accompanied by the Italian conversations drifting by. He guided my hips, thrusting upward, as he smothered his face in my chest.
Fuck. Keep going.
The muscles in my legs started to scream, but it felt too good to stop. My hand snaked between us, and I rubbed my clit. He was close, and I wanted to finish with him. I started to panic at my inability to bring myself to climax. Can you make me come? He pulled me forward, and I lunged closer, confused when my chin rested on his shoulder.
Stay still for a second.
I stilled, and my eyes widened when his finger pushed into my ass. Hale!
Shh, you're okay.
He was deep, filling me from both angles. I don't know what to do.
Let your body sink onto me and relax. I've got you.
Leaning into him, I lowered until his cock fully penetrated me. That's when his finger started to move. I sucked in a breath, stretched and unsure, I held onto his shoulders and let him lead. Sensations zipped over my nerves, and I gasped. He teased the thin wall separating his stroking finger from his engorged cock.
That's a good wife. Stay still and let your husband take care of you.
I was shocked by how much he was making me feel. I wasn't even riding him anymore, but my sex had started to clench and my clit was pulsing.
Now touch yourself, baby.
I reached between us and started to rub, gasping when the first shiver of an orgasm stole through me. "Oh my God,"
Keep going,
he said, pumping his finger in and out.
You're almost there. I can feel you tightening around me.
Ah! My head fell back as a wash of pleasure rained over me. I trembled, and Hale held me close, riding the storm with me until we were both panting and replete.
Beautiful.
I would always favor Italy a little more than all the other places we visited, because that was where Hale made the impossible possible. He might have destroyed my modesty that day, fucking me in broad daylight while villagers walked by the open windows. Some had undoubtedly looked in. But what they saw was a woman in command of her own pleasure, a woman in love with an incredible man, a woman set free. I could have stayed in Italy forever, but we had 2 more stops to make. Next was Santorini, Greece, which I was relieved to learn was only a short 3-hour flight away from the Amalfi Coast. Santorini was very similar to the Amalfi Coast, with its busy streets and heavy tourist attractions, but the atmosphere was slightly different in that it lacked the brightly colored architecture of Amalfi. Homes stacked along the coast like a pile of salt building from the briny sea, each one uniquely carved of the same white stone. The crisp, bleached landscape was stunning at sunset when the sky seemed to reflect off the crystal-clear waters and illuminate the buildings in shades of pink and gold. I hadn't felt great in Greece. It might have been all the walking, or perhaps it was the nonstop seafood we'd eaten, or maybe the stubborn jackass I rode on the way in. Not Hale, but the actual donkey he stuck me on to get to the villa.
I'm sorry you didn't get to enjoy Greece as much as all our other stops,
Hale said toward the end of our stay. I'd been exhausted and fighting a stomach bug. I'm sure we'll come back.
I promise we will.
I smiled up at him adoringly, knowing he'd keep his word. By the time our stay ended, I was ready to go home. I missed American food and my creature comforts. I missed drive-through, central air, and ice in my drinks. But most of all, I missed Alara. The last time we video chatted with her, she looked enormous. She was saying new words and toddling around like a pro, and we were missing it. I had a hunch Hale was also homesick for his daughter, but he seemed determined to make sure we enjoyed every last minute of our trip. We had 1 more stop in Maui, and then it was back to Key West, where I planned to stay for a long time. When we landed in Hawaii, I suddenly recalled a lot from my high school geography class, namely, how the island was famous for its volcanoes. Hale thought this was a silly concern, but if anyone was going to suffer a brutal death in liquid-hot, volcanic magma, it was probably me. My abnormally lucky husband would find the one dry spot in an eruption and outlive us all. Knowing there was only 1 week left of our honeymoon, I made the most of it. We spent the first day on the beach, but after that, it was all about Hale. I booked us a tour through the rainforest, which was incredible. Then we took surfing lessons, which was hilarious. Hale picked the skill up in an instant. Me, not so much. For our last night, I booked us a reservation at a restaurant known for its eccentric dining experience and unique menu. It was one of those fancy places where the chef picks the menu for guests and they only serve so many people a night. Very exclusive. Very Hale.
Where did you find this place?
He asked as we entered through a grotto covered by a pergola wrapped in a year's worth of flowers and twisting vines. The surfing instructor's girlfriend told me about it when you were out riding the waves. They had our table ready when we arrived. What I didn't expect was to be sitting with other people. But apparently every night was broadcast live on the restaurant's YouTube channel. Had I known that, I would have watched a few episodes first. We introduced ourselves to the 2 other couples dining with us. One woman appeared drunk and the other looked bored. The men, however, were sociable and eager to chat.
Rayne, is it?
I nodded, and the man held out a large hand.
Name's Bob. This is Judy. We're from Oklahoma. Where are you 2 from?
We live in Key West. I didn't see the need to explain that Hale had multiple houses all over the country.
Key West is great. We vacation there with friends every fall. We call our little club the Upside Down Pineapples.
Oh, that's nice, I said, unsure if that was important information for me to have.
Why the pineapples?
Hale asked.
When you know,
Bob said, shooting me an exaggerated wink. I guess I didn't know. Still, I didn't want to appear unfriendly, so I said, I love pineapples. They're one of my favorite snacks. Bob grinned.
I bet you got a real sweet tooth, don't you, Rayne?
You know it. I glanced at Judy, who was face-planting in her cocktail. She didn't look interested in anything her husband was saying, so I looked at the other couple. And your names?
This is Laura, and I'm Norbert.
I snapped my mouth shut. Did he say his name was Norbert? I could not be around people with silly names, and Norbert was a name of a chubby headliner in a comic strip. This time, Hale didn't bail me out. He knew a name like that would kill me, and no matter how composed he appeared, I sensed him laughing at me on the inside. Bastard. I'd show him that I could hold a conversation like a sophisticated adult. So, Norbert, I swallowed back a laugh. What do you do for a living?
I'm a minister of merriment.
Uh-oh. I ignored the giggles building in my stomach. And what is that exactly? Norbert grinned.
Well, I own my own business, so technically I'm the jester-in-chief, or head honcho of hilarity. Hey-o!
He laughed, elbowing his wife, who looked like she could think of a million places she'd rather be. I cocked my head, still a little confused about his business, and feeling like I missed the punchline of his joke. Laura rolled her eyes, but not in a playful way. He's a clown. I stilled. Clown, did you say? As a lifelong sufferer of coulrophobia, this was no laughing matter.
Want to see a trick?
Oh, God, no, please. I drew back in my seat and clung to Hale. That was enough about Norbert. Turning back to the pineapple winker, I smiled. Where'd you get that drink, Judy? The waitress. I'd sure like to meet her.
Tonight's gonna be a hoot,
Norbert announced, but I couldn't bring myself to look at him. What if he was suddenly wearing a red nose? When the waitress finally returned, I ordered a margarita, but that was a no-go. The chef even picked the cocktails, and tonight, we were all having pink squirrels, whatever the hell that was. And what exactly is this? I stirred the milky pink drink and sniffed, finding the scent nutty with a trace of chocolate-covered cherries. Hale, smell this. He leaned over and sniffed the glass, then cleared his throat.
That's interesting.
I begrudgingly sipped the concoction and gagged. It wants to be pink milk, but it's not. The centerpieces were cleared to make room for the main course, which we still hadn't been told about. Remington once told me it was rude to ask too many questions when dealing with eccentric chefs, so I trusted the experience. But when the main course arrived, my easygoing attitude disappeared. I leaned close to Hale. That pig's staring at me.
Which one?
What did he mean, which one? The one with the apple in its mouth? Who knew I had hard limits with food? When I looked to see if anyone else was disturbed by the sight, Pineapple Bob winked at me. What the hell was this guy's deal? Hale tossed his linen napkin over the pig's head.
He winks at you one more time, and I'm going to do to him what they did to Wilbur.
I scrunched my nose. Ew. He's old, Hale, I whispered, trying to be discreet.
That's irrelevant. You're my wife, and he's been eye-fucking you since we sat down.
I cleared my throat, staring down at my empty plate and disgusting drink. Maybe we should leave.
What's got you acting so shy all of a sudden?
Bob asked, and Hale snapped.
That's it. Whoa!
Bob held up his hands.
Easy now. Wink at my wife again and I thought you were okay with it. Why the hell would I be okay with another man flirting with my wife? Guess you two don't swing that way.
What the? Oh. I placed a calming hand on Hale's leg. Honey, I think an upside-down pineapple is code for being a swinger.
Smart little cookie you got there, Hale.
He growled.
Hit on her again, and I'll show you just how hard I swing. Understand? Loud and clear.
This was a nightmare. Maybe we should leave, I whispered. Hale glanced at me, all of his frustration vanishing.
No, you planned a nice dinner, and I planned to enjoy it.
He squeezed my hand.
Do you want some?
No. My stomach lurched. Unfortunately, things only got worse. The next course was fried frog legs, and for dessert, we had a choice: spaghetti ice cream or chocolate-covered pickles. I chose neither, as did Hale. The moment we left the restaurant, he doubled over in laughter. It's not funny.
Oh, Rayne, it's pretty fucking funny.
He wiped his eyes.
Your expression was priceless when they brought out that pig, and then the frog legs?
He laughed harder than I ever saw him laugh. I was trying to do something nice for you.
This was unforgettable.
This was a disaster, Hale. You just threw down $400 for an evening with clowns and swingers, and all I had was one sip of a shitty cocktail.
Thank you so much for bringing me here. I'm never going to forget this.
I left him to his hysteria and stomped off to the rental car, closing myself inside so I could sulk. When Hale finally joined me, he was composed, until he wasn't. Losing the battle against the apparent hilarity, he dropped his head onto the steering wheel and cracked up some more, his shoulders bouncing as he howled. Jerk, I said, whacking him with my tiny purse.
Why am I a jerk?
He wiped the tears from his eyes. Because you're laughing at me.
Baby, no, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at us.
But it's not funny. I had 8 weeks, and every time I tried to do something nice for you, it blew up in my face. First, the farting scuba gear, then the kitchen fire, and now this. He threw his head back and barked out another laugh.
I forgot about the farting wetsuit.
Hale!
Baby, don't you see? In 8 weeks, we didn't have one single fight. We feasted and drank and explored and played. We fucked and had 2 whole months of fun. I laughed harder than I've ever laughed before. Why? Because life's so much better with you.
Well, when you put it that way, it didn't sound too bad. Really? I did that for you?
Yes, you.
He pulled me close and kissed me.
You make me happier than I believed possible, Rayne. I love you. I love you too. And think of the memories we get to take with us. I never want to forget a single silly thing you do. He tucked my hair behind my ear. Don't you see, baby? You did give me something. Something priceless. I pressed my forehead to his. How do you do that? Do what? Put a positive spin on a bad situation. Bad? Why? Because dinner was weird? Who cares? Look around, Rayne. We're in Hawaii. We've been to Fiji, Bora Bora, Italy, and Greece. Our hut could have burnt down. My favorite part about this whole trip was spending it with you. That's all that matters. He was right. Richer or poorer, through sickness and health, our love was what mattered most. I lowered my head and chuckled, laughing at how ridiculous some of our adventures had been. I nearly died when Norbert said he was a clown. A minister of merriment, Hale barked. The head honcho of hilarity. I laughed with him, finally seeing the humor of it all. We fell to pieces, cracking up until our stomachs crammed. It was the perfect end to a perfect vacation. I never thought about the actual word honeymoon before, but I got it now. I was over the moon. This has been Calamity Rayne, Over the Moon, a Calamity Rayne novella, Book 4 by Lydia Michaels, read for you by Ellen Valentine.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, lady listeners. Thank you so much to Lydia for bringing us Calamity Rayne, Over the Moon. We appreciate it. Make sure you check the show notes for all the links. Like I said, you can grab the ebook now. And if you want to start the series for free, we'll have links down below to get that. Up next week is Alexa Riley. It's the last week of the year. So this will be your last chance to hear a Read Me Romance audiobook for 2024. And we're going out with a bang, literally.
It's dirty. It's dirty,
so
dirty.
fucking nasty. It is, don't even say it's dirty. It's filthy. It is disgusting. There's so much fucking in this book. I can't wait. It's awesome. So yes, it's called Snow Much Plowing. You're welcome. This is the love letter from us to you, lady listeners. Merry Christmas.
Tell them what to do.
Fuck your day up. Make today your bitch. Don't be a dick.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Read me romance. Read